So I've decided to cleanse my palate since the last game I made a video on left a bitter taste in my mouth. Today I'm talking about Oni, the third-person action-adventure beat-em-up developed by Bungie West and released on January 28th of 2001 on PC and January 29th on the PlayStation 2. There are various reasons as to why I wanted to make a video on Oni. First and foremost, I've played it before and I really liked it. In fact, I got it in a bundle called Pack 5 Action Games, which contained Oni, Heavy Metal Fact 2, Serious Sam the First Encounter, Myth 2 Soulblighter, and Rune. I'll probably cover these other games sometime, so get ready for that. But as well, Oni's gameplay interested me, especially comparing it to similar modern beat-em-ups, but I'll go over all of that here in just a few minutes. I'll be covering just about everything that Oni has to offer, from gameplay to story, from visuals to music. So, if you're interested, I suggest that you play this game yourself before you watch this video. You can currently buy Oni through Amazon, eBay, or probably your favorite online retailer for less than $10. This is your only spoiler warning, so watch at your own risk. Without further ado, let's take a look at Oni. I want to get started with the gameplay, so— oh shit, the intro! That intro is awesome! Looks like it could have been its own TV show. According to LeBel, the lead designer for Oni, the intro was created by a third-party contractor while the game was still early in development. More specifically, the intro was created by AIC, the Anime International Company, in collaboration with Alex Okita at Bungie. This is pretty common, letting outside companies create cinematics for your game. I know that the Assassin's Creed games do this a lot. It looks very professional. Anyways, on to the gameplay. The game starts you off with a tutorial, which I highly recommend paying attention to. Everything here will come in handy throughout the game, and oh my god, who are you? Why does your face look fucked up? What happened to the quality that was in the intro animation? Kanoko, you too? Ah! So, yeah, the character portraits in-game are occasionally strange, to say the least. Anyways, I'm nitpicking here, let's just move on. Before I dive into it, I want to say that I'm heavily conflicted about the gameplay here. On one hand, the game is fucking great and it gives you a lot of control over what you can do. You can really make your own fighting style. But, as well, I kinda hate it. Because the shooting portion of this game kinda sucks dick, and you'll be doing a lot of shooting throughout the game. Oni likes to tout its hand-to-hand combat, but god damn, you'll be almost forced to use guns throughout a majority of this game. I'll explain more as to exactly why I hate the gunplay in Oni, but let's go through the good first. The hand-to-hand combat is mostly phenomenal with a few minor annoyances, but those are easily overshadowed by the rest of it. You know how modern third-person beat-em-ups like the Batman Arkham games, Assassin's Creed games, and so on and so forth seem to have really easy one-button combat? Yeah, well, Oni doesn't have that. And that's what I absolutely love about this game. You see, in these newer games, you can almost play them without even looking at the screen, and oh wait! You can!
I don't even have my monitor on right now. I don't even know what's going on right now. Am I winning? I don't know. Am I getting fucked up right now? It doesn't sound like it. Are all the enemies dead?
Yeah. Oni doesn't have that. I know some of the earlier Batman games were less forgiving on your countering, but wow, I do not like the way these types of games have progressed. I understand empowering the player, but this just feels wrong. Oni, on the other hand, requires a bit of finesse to really, dig in deep with its combat. Like the back of the box says, it's easy to learn and hard to master. The basics of Oni's combat are punching and kicking, but how you string those together with your movements can affect the outcome. As well, there are several grapples that you can perform that will deal massive damage. Or, depending on your positioning, outright snap someone's fucking spine, yeah! There's also combination moves that you can perform with correct button presses. This also differs from the Batman Arkham clones where you press AB or XY or etc. together to perform a finishing move. In Oni, for example, you have to press forward, backwards, and then kick to perform a kick that will stun your enemy for a brief moment. It's a bit more reminiscent of, I don't know, an actual fighting game. I've never been a big fan of fighting games before because, frankly, I'm shit at them, but I can dig it here. I would say that my only real complaint so far in accordance to the hand-to-hand combat is the way that Oni handles blocking attacks, by making it so you don't handle anything. And seriously, all you do is just sit there and you'll block most of the enemy's attacks. There's no dedicated block button with any sort of real countering function, and I feel that this is a big missed opportunity to grant the player near complete control over Konoko's combat style. As I stated earlier, this small grievance is overshadowed by the rest of the fisticuff controls. But nonetheless, this seizure of basic combat ability itches away at me. Moving on, as you're moving through the levels yourself, you'll tend to encounter various health items or power-ups. Be sure to pick them up with Q. The health hypos, well, they restore your health, but as an extended function, they can also extend your health past a certain point, which will bestow Konako with enhanced speed and fighting capabilities, at the cost of the extra health slowly depleting. Other pickups include a phase cloak, which will render Konako invisible to enemies, allowing you to easily sneak up on them to perform that satisfying chiropractic technique. Reminds me of Toblerone. The other pickup item is a force field that will help deflect bullets, which is really goddamn useful. And lastly, you'll find 2 ammo variants for your weapons. You'll find both ballistic ammo and plasma ammo, and we'll briefly cover the weapons that require them here momentarily. You won't just find these scattered about the level on extremely frustrating to reach platforms though. Many NPCs will willingly aid Konako throughout the game. They'll supply her with ammo, health hypos, force fields, and cloaks. Some of these NPCs will be under attack by the enemy and requires your aid before they're willing to part ways with a potentially helpful item. My only real complaint with the pickups in general is that, other than the hypos and ammo, you can't stack up on the force field or the cloak, and once you pick them up or otherwise receive them, they're instantly consumed. I would prefer to have the choice on when or where I intend to use these items, but it's not a big deal. To go over the basic controls though, obviously you use WASD to move around, your mouse to move the camera, left mouse punches, right mouse kicks, tab uses a hypo to restore your health, Q picks up items, E drops weapons, control is your action key for interacting with characters and doors, R reloads, space is jump, and shift is crouch. Okay. And caps toggles your walk. Most of these controls are fine, but I don't like that there's no dedicated sprint button. Usually in most games nowadays, shift is commonly dedicated to sprinting and crouch will be control or C, but that's not the case here. To sprint an Oni, you actually have to double tap W, which is kind of a pain in the ass. The mouse movement does have some weird delay or smoothness to it. In general, it's not a big deal, but we'll get to that in a second. Making our way through the tutorial, the game teaches you about movement and how to run, your basic combat controls and your aerial controls, which are helpful in jumping over potential hazards and for platforming. Oh god, the platforming. I don't know if I even want to bother with it. The platforming in this game is frustrating, at best. Thank God there's not a lot of it in this game, but sometimes there's a health hypo or more ammo laying on top of a box, and sometimes you have to jump on 3 boxes to get to it. The problem with Oni's platforming is that once you perform a jump, you're committed to it. If you fuck up, then that's your fault, man. Some jumps also require you to sprint beforehand, but occasionally the platform is really small and sometimes it's hard to start running because you have to double tap W. I mostly view the platforming as a superfluous aspect to the game, except for a couple of levels, but a few of those at least give you ample room to start running. Then Oni moves on to the combat basics, which we already sort of covered. As well, though, I like how Oni displays the enemy's health meters through changing the colors of the corresponding sprites and particle effects that emit whenever you land a hit on them. It might not be so helpful if you're colorblind, but it works to free up the heads-up display a bit. The heads-up display in general is okay. I've never been fond of circular designs in my HUD. I like things sort of boxy, somewhat minimalistic, or otherwise pretty. And Oni's heads-up display isn't exactly any of those things, but it gets the job done and it's not confusing, so that's more than can be said for some games. Alright, I'm procrastinating though. Let's get to the gunplay. The gunplay though, oh god, listen, I like Oni for various reasons, and overall I think that you should play this game. But fuck me running, this gunplay is atrocious. It wouldn't be so bad, but like I said earlier, there's a lot of shooting in this game. I wish that Oni was more akin to, say, Sleeping Dogs, where you're fighting hand-to-hand for 95% of the game, and the parts that do require gunplay are few and far between. The exact problem with the gunplay is this, though. First and foremost, the mouse controls are weird. The best way I can explain it is that your mouse moves along a grid, a painful and tedious grid. It makes aiming in general a goddamn chore. Look at this. I can't aim with this. Well, lucky me, the developers seem to have added in some sort of auto-aim. It's not the best, but it gets the job done. But yeah, the mouse aiming sucks ass, and I really wish that— oh, wait, what? Hold on, apparently the game has mouse control issues if your frame rate goes above 60? And it's recommended to force VSync. Well, that's nice since I have a 144Hz monitor. I guess this game's worth it to cap my monitor at 60, and lo and behold, it helps out quite a bit. This also helps with a lot of my button inputs. Sometimes I found it a pain to dash, and a few of the combos were hard to get right, but now it seems a lot more stable. Look at this, I can aim. Though not all is right, the game still does have the auto-aim, which is annoying, but also capping myself to 60 Hz and forcing VSync seems to cause the game to occasionally freeze. It's not a game breaker, but it works. It just fucking works. You see that box over there? Guess what? You can climb it. But now that we have the mouse controls fixed, let's take a look at the other various weapons that you'll receive throughout the game. As I stated earlier, you'll either receive standard ballistics or plasma-based weaponry, and both require their own ammo types, obviously. Many of the ballistic weapons are rather standard, such as pistols, machine pistols, rocket launchers, grenade launchers, and sniper rifles. You know, the basics. Your plasma-based weapons are a plasma rifle, a taser that shoots gooey wads, and a screaming cannon that's made of the life force from another dimension that drains you and your enemy's health and definitely sounds like souls being tortured in hell. I'd recommend that one. Obviously, all of these weapons have varying degrees of usefulness, with the pistol and machine pistol being probably the worst weapons ever. Honestly though, go big or go home. Use the screams from hell or blow the enemies to hell. The sniper rifle's fine too. It would be remiss of me not to mention the Anniversary Edition though. Since Oni is an older game and has no support from the actual developers anymore, fans have pretty much taken over to fix a lot of the issues, help revamp parts of the game, and basically just mod the hell out of Oni. It's revitalized a lot of my interest in Oni, and it's fucking easy too, look at that. I'll provide a download link for easy access. They've been doing it basically since the game came out according to the Oni wiki, which is great, as the retail version of the game kinda sucks, and the fact that we'll probably never see Oni 2, or play Oni 2 rather. There's a specific video online showing off the concept for Oni 2, but that never came to fruition, which kinda sucks because I would love to see a game made nowadays that plays like Oni, but with better everything, except the gameplay, which was already pretty great, especially by today's terms. But Oni 2 was being developed by Angel Studios, which was then shut down after the team was turned into Rockstar San Diego. Apparently there was a lack of direction or some such, but there's a better video that you'll find here that's a lot more concise. You should check it out. It goes over Oni 2 more than my video will. That's just the general gameplay though. You run around and you punch and shoot people. Occasionally you'll learn a new move that requires specific button combinations and you'll fight the occasional boss. The general combat is still great and the Anniversary Edition mod helps sort out a lot of things. And this game still runs like a charm. With the combat out of the way, let's take a few minutes to talk about the story and the plot in general. Oni takes place in a dystopian future where the planet is polluted beyond habitation, as these stories usually go. To combat this economic crisis, nations around the world converge into a supernation called the World Coalition Government. With a name like that, you have to expect that these guys are going to be Orwellian, and surprise, they are. They lie to the populace and tell them that the outside world is a wilderness preserve to keep them out, which it's not because everything outside the city is toxic. I'm not sure why they have to keep the truth hidden, but okay. They keep the city safe by converting the toxic atmosphere outside into breathable gas. Like any other authoritarian government, the World Coalition government cares only about its upper class. Apparently they have the ability to treat or otherwise reverse the environmental catastrophe that's taken place outside, but they don't, of course. I actually think that a lot of the backstory to Oni is really interesting, and it kind of reminds me of Ergo Proxy or Sky Blue, aka Wonderful Days, but those came out years later. I discussed the backstory with lead designer Hardy LeBel, who also wrote the story for Oni, and he told me that a lot of the inspiration for the story of Oni came from various animes and shows that he watched at the time. He couldn't recall any specific show, but he assured me that Oni was inspired by Ghost in the Shell and aesthetics only, and I'll go over that here in a minute. Hardy told me that he wanted to set up a universe where Konako could prove that she's special, and boy does she. But in doing so, I feel that much of the backstory falls by the wayside to emphasize on the story of Konako. This isn't necessarily bad, but the story of Konako in the world of Oni isn't very interesting, at least to me. There's a few interesting characters, but nothing feels like it goes any deeper than, "You're special, you were meant to do great things!" There's bad guys with no motivation other than, "I want to kill everyone because bad things happen to me." And there's a betrayal which is pretty noticeable early on, and it doesn't feel like the gut punch that I'm wondering if it was meant to be. But anyways, Konako. That name sounds very interesting. And Commander Griffin, he looks really interesting. Okay, I'm sure you drew the resemblances too, but this game does take a bit of inspiration from Ghost in the Shell, which is part of the reason that I really love this game, because I really love Ghost in the Shell. The main character's name is Konako, which is similar to Motoko. They both have purple hair, they both work for a specialized task force, they both kick a lot of ass, and they're both occasionally accompanied by robots that sound like little girls. Ugh. That's where a lot of the resemblances between Ghost in the Shell and Oni end. I'm sure there's a futuristic dystopian vibe, but Ghost in the Shell is always more of a post-war setting with an emphasis on combating terrorism and cyber-terrorism. While many of the different iterations of Ghost in the Shell can get very philosophical, many of the stories feel like a day in the life of Section 9. That is, a day in the life of a special investigators task force. Oni, on the other hand, is more of a post-environmental apocalypse, with world governments colliding into a single world government, and the story of Konako being, "Whoa, look at me, I'm special." Each mission in this game almost feels like it could be an episode of Standalone Complex, but without the fun characters, and more hints at Konako being more than you initially think. There's a lot of computer terminals in-game that will give you more insight into the world of Oni, which I found more compelling than Konako, but whatever. I'm not going to completely spoil the story, as in go step by step throughout the game. If you're really interested, I'd say play the game yourself. If anything, I'll once again say that the story is serviceable. It's definitely not the worst, but it feels like it's wasted potential. Really quickly, I want to talk about something that I love though, which is the music in this game. The composer for Oni is a Bungie veteran, or ex-veteran now, I guess, but that man is Martin O'Donnell, who some of you might recognize as the composer for Halo. I like Halo and all, and the music is great, but a lot of people seem to become downright ecstasy-driven if you mention the music for Halo. Look man, it's great, and I'll agree, but Jesus Christ. Anyways, Oni's music is great. I wouldn't exactly call it iconic, because I'm not sure that anyone's used that word to describe Oni, but the music will get you pumped up for sure. Just take a listen. If that doesn't get you ready to fight someone, I don't know what will. I think it fits the mood, the general atmosphere, and the fact that you're about to kick some ass perfectly. It's good music. Martin O'Donnell makes good music. Since he was terminated from Bungie back in 2014, he's gone on to found a new game development studio called Highwire Games, and it's been there since 2015. Their new game is apparently a PlayStation VR game. Well, I probably won't play it, but I might check out the music. And finally, I want to go over the visuals and aesthetics. I love most of the way this game looks. A few of my favorite games have cyberpunk aesthetics. For example, I define Cybermancy, Deus Ex, and something that I refuse to play anymore. And some of my favorite movies or shows have cyberpunk aesthetics. For example, Ghost in the Shell, Blade Runner, Ergo Proxy, and more Ghost in the Shell. And this is entirely subjective because I'll absolutely love and eat up anything with a cyberpunk theme or cyberpunk visuals. But if you're like me, then you'll probably at least enjoy the way that Oni looks. There's a lot of objective reasons that I don't like the way Oni looks though. I mean, obviously it's old and the textures aren't that great by today's standards, but force a little bit of anti-aliasing, some anisotropic filtering, maybe get some HD textures with the Anniversary Edition, and it's not a bad looking game at all. I'd say, if anything, the only real thing that I found, not even bad, more so unsettling, was the way that a lot of the levels felt really barren. I mean, sure, there's enemies everywhere, and there's NPCs that you can talk to, computers that you can access, but everything feels a little too clean, sometimes too spaced out. I can't completely place my finger on it, but a lot of these levels are really large with a ton of empty space. And for comparison, Black Mesa from Half-Life 1 felt a lot more alive and lived in. It felt a bit more real, a bit more dirty. I loved exploring around Black Mesa and seeing the various bathrooms, cafeterias, office rooms, and so on and so forth. I like blowing up this guy's soup. It might be with the fact that Half-Life, in terms of level design, is a bit more tight-knit. Sure, it has a lot of corridors and hallways that you walk down, but there's also extraneous rooms that you can enter and visit and fight enemies in. But typically you don't have the fuck-huge levels that take up a ton of room. Once again, talking with Hardy LeBel, he told me that he and the team were more invested in making a large play area with enough room to execute the combat, and enough room so the camera didn't get stuck and ruin the experience. It seems to me that they didn't have the time to incorporate superfluous details. The fact that you have these big levels to perform various skills and acrobatics to take out your enemies is awesome, but I can't help but shake the feeling that if the levels felt more alive, then maybe Oni would be a bit more memorable, but that's just my take on it. A lot of the futuristic elements to this game are great though. There's obviously a big element of cybernetics and future technology, but nothing feels like it's a gigantic leap from our own world. Obviously, we don't have any advanced cybernetics or talking brains yet, but we do have jetpacks, we have the same types of cars and planes. Nothing feels too overwhelmingly distant in Oni, and that's something that I can appreciate. I would love to see a modern rendition of this game, but only if a new developer didn't human revolutionize it. I don't want my Oni to look like it's drowned in piss and flying cars, you fucks! But that's basically it for the graphics. It's not anything amazing, even by 2001 standards, but it's still a pretty decent looking game. Just to recap before I end this video, or, well, shit, you could just skip to this part and not even watch what happens before this. Whatever. To recap, this game is mostly good, but it's marred by a few unsavory aspects. In general, the combat is fantastic, and the Anniversary Edition helps to further correct the gameplay. Just install the Anniversary Edition and you'll be fine. Stay away from trying to climb boxes, though. The backstory felt a lot more interesting than the main story, but that's just me. I'm a sucker for Orwellian governments and economic disasters. Konako's story was fine, but it wasn't anything special. The music is invigorating and sometimes downright stunning. Martin O'Donnell does some fine work. Good job, Marty! The visuals are great, but obviously dated. If you like cyberpunk, more than likely you'll find the game enjoyable to look at. But that's basically it for Oni. It saddens me that there will probably never be another Oni game, but such is life. Take-Two Interactive currently holds the rights to Oni, and I'm not really a big fan of Take-Two, so I'm definitely not going to hold my breath for a sequel because, well, that hardly happens for the games that I like. Anyways, join me in the next video for something strange. Like, subscribe, fuck it.